When you're ready, Madam Mayor.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for being here this evening. Thank you to our staff for the quick pivot, given inclement weather. I have to say, I'm not sure it's as bad as they had anticipated, but we certainly will carry on. And as Mary has noted, we are convening this meeting electronically in accordance with Section 238, 3.3 of the Municipal Act 2001, which does provide for electronic meetings when necessary. And with that, I'll look to a council colleague to read the land acknowledgements. Okay, Councillor Wilson, thank you.
Unmuting. The municipality of North Granville acknowledges that the municipality operates on the territory of the Anishinaabe. We recognize all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples who now call North Granville their home. We respect and support the need for cultivating a strong relationship, and we commit to Indigenous informed decision-making to foster the path towards reconciliation.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. So moving on through the agenda, I don't have opening remarks this evening other than to urge people to stay safe. We understand the weather may get significantly worse or stay the same depending on what weather forecast you're looking at. So want to extend our appreciation to all of our municipal staff, certainly our fire department, our OPP, and our other first responders, of course, who are out on the roads. Making sure people are safe and still responding to a variety of emergencies and quasi-emergencies, we'll say. I would like to thank all of my council colleagues as well as staff who supported various International Women's Day events this past week. The day was marked over multiple days, in fact. And I know that there was lots of wonderful efforts from our economic development staff, some local businesses, partners to ensure the day was recognized in full. So thanks to everyone who really came out in celebration of International Women's Day. As some of you know, we have been busy with official plan meetings, consultations, statutory meetings, and there are many opportunities coming up to continue to provide feedback. And I would urge anyone who's heard about the official plan but hasn't had that opportunity to come out or engage to check out the municipal website. There is a dedicated page to the official plan, which does provide fairly comprehensive, information. And we look forward, to a couple of other meetings later in April and in May. So with that, council colleagues, unless there's something you wish to bring to people's attention this evening, not seeing anything, we'll move on to consideration of the agenda. And as you know, the agenda has had a couple of changes, including the cancellation of a public meeting that had been anticipated for today. And I know Ms. Martin is going to make sure we're up to date on some considerations around Birth Rapids, which I believe at this stage means we won't be in decision-making mode this evening, but we will hear an update from her and her team about where things stand now. So with that in mind, I'll look for a mover and a seconder for the agenda. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Wilson, thank you. Any comments, council colleagues, on the agenda? Not seeing any, then I will call the question. All in favor? All right, that carries. Thank you very much. Next is declarations of community interest and general nature thereof. This is in regards to any perceived or real financial benefit or loss arising from items on the agenda this evening. Any declarations, colleagues? Not seeing any, we will move on. Next on our agenda, of course, is the minutes of previous meetings. You'll note we have the minutes of March 3rd, 2026 and March 4th, 2026. That was a special council meeting. Colleagues, can I have a mover and a seconder for those meetings? Councillor Strachan, Deputy Mayor, thank you. Any comments or questions? Ms. Remy, I note that the year for the second set of minutes appears to be incorrect, but I'm sure on the minutes themselves, it will reflect the accurate date. Okay, perfect. So with that, I will call the question. All in favor? Great, thank you. So next, I believe Ms. Martin is with us, if I'm not mistaken. We've seen a lot of Ms. Martin. There she is. Okay, so Ms. Martin, thank you. We'll look to you in regards to the Burrits Rapids ZBA 1425 supplemental report. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of council. I do also want to recognize that we have many members here from the community of Burrits Rapids. I also want to acknowledge that Alison Clark from the Sterling Group is also present with us virtually this evening. I do want to note that this is not a formal public meeting under the Planning Act, and it is a return of a supplemental report. I do have a more of a verbal presentation, and I have asked the deputy clerk to put just the bylaw up on the screen. We'll get to it as part of my verbal update to council and to the public. So as council recalls, a public meeting was initially held on February 18th of this year. The matter of any decision wasn't heard that evening and was to arise to council at a future date. So we've had quite a bit of dialogue with the community, and during this time, we have been reviewing our zone standards as proposed for the property and have some recommendations this evening. There have been additional comments and letters that have been received by staff as part of our public process. Our report does summarize the comments provided up until the report was drafted prior to the deputy director going off on a short-term leave. And I'll provide a summary of any additional comments that have come in since it's been drafted. And I do want to thank the deputy director for putting the report together. And we did circulate well in advance of this meeting to give people time to interact with staff and ask questions. And to that end, there was a meeting that was held on March 6th with members of the Burrits Rapids community, as well as Ms. Clark, to discuss the proposed zoning and then the report. It was acknowledged by all parties at this meeting that the community really needed some additional time to review the zoning and what's being proposed, as well as the recommendations within the staff report. And the Ms. Clark, as the agent for the property owner, identified that there is some time. And so this evening, staff have a modified recommendation for council where the bylaw will not be considered. Rather that the report be received this evening and that they direct staff to bring this back. I gave a June timeline just so we have some certainty as to when it would be coming back. In regards to this meeting, I want to walk through a little bit of Mr. Mosher's report, but not in too great of a detail, as I do want to note that he went into quite a bit of a lengthy analysis in regards to section 8.3.5 of the official plan. And I think it's important to note that through the additional conversations with the community, that there are opposing views on how this section has been interpreted by planning staff. And staff have analyzed this policy within the report and provided a detailed breakdown related to the question of infilling and intensification and the applicability of the section in light of the zoning application. While staff's opinion is that the policy does not apply based on the policy definitions within the official plan as it relates to their criteria established in section 8.1c of the official plan and the definition of residential intensification, discussions were still held with the agent for the developer to discuss undertaking a study that would look at the neighborhood character and compatibility given the community concerns that were raised. The developer has agreed to undertake a neighborhood compatibility and character statement report as part of a future plan of subdivision. While this report would be non-binding based on the interpretation of the existing policy, it would help guide the future development of the subdivision and has been included as a requirement to lift the holding provision proposed by staff. The report goes into great detail regarding the comments that have been previously received and as a response to comments also received at the public meeting. In addition, the following summary is provided as to the comments received more recently. And some of these themes are common with the letters and the comments made at the public meeting back in February and include density and overdevelopment in the rural area. There was a request to only allow one home built per 2.5 acres per lot. request to keep Birds Rapids rural using an RU or a rural residential zone category. Potential impacts on the aquifer, septic systems and wells, groundwater levels, potential runoff and potential impact on the Rideau River, value of the development of the community to the community, a special heritage consideration for Birds Rapids, noise, traffic and congestion, safety for pedestrians, cyclists, kids, and the elderly. The residential first density zone is inconsistent with the zoning of other lots in the area. There's a request to complete the hamlet design concept as soon as possible, a request to buffer new properties from each other with trees and shrubs, and a request that North Granville's allotment of the property is turned, which is the block for green space, that it is turned into green space, not taken as cash in lieu, and trees are immediately planted to ensure the recreational areas have shade. The municipality also received a letter from Parks Canada, and in summary, the letter spoke that the property is not adjacent to the Rideau Canal National Historic Site and World Heritage Site, but it is located in close proximity to the waterway on the opposite south side of Birds Rapids Road, with federally administered lands associated with the canal to the north. The proposal does not have a direct impact on the physical or visual values of the historic site through a combination of distance, topography, and existing shoreline vegetation. However, Parks Canada noted that the evolution in the planning proposal for the voluntary completion of a neighborhood character statement and compatibility report with a focus on the Rideau Canal with findings that can be implemented through a future subdivision agreement as positive. This undertaking, along with the proposed modified zone standards for additional residential units, will help inform the future development of these lands compatible with the surrounding landscape character and notable historic built environment unique to this section of the waterway. As it relates to the nearby swing bridge, Parks Canada noted that an increase in vehicular traffic as a result of a future subdivision on a portion of the subject property does not pose a concern for the structural integrity of the swing bridge. I also wanted to note that a letter of no objection was received from the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority. Staff have considered the comments received and have proposed a rural residential exception zone category with a holding symbol for a portion of the property. There are no changes to the proposed zoning at this time for the portion of the property that will remain rural or the environmental protection zone as previously identified by the Deputy Director in February. Before Council and the public this evening is a proposed zone standard that staff worked on and have provided to the developer that more aligns with what the developers and their agents spoke to at the February meeting. This includes limiting the permitted uses as seen on the screen, with a single detached dwelling being the primary form of residential development. And these permitted uses are in line with what is permitted currently in the rural residential zone. There's additional zone standards that are being considered based on the concept plan that was provided with the application, and that recognizes a minimum lot frontage of 30 meters and a maximum lot coverage of 20%. And it would maintain the acreage requirements of the rural residential zone, which is 1 acre. And then the provisions within the holding symbol that staff are recommending included items listed at the previous meeting, which were the hydrogeological and terrain analysis report, the submission of a traffic impact analysis report, submission of an archaeological assessment, and then we added the submission of a neighborhood character statement and compatibility report with focus on the Rideau Canal, as had been discussed with the agent for the file. And then lastly, the execution of a subdivision agreement would be required as well to lift the holding provision. So at this time, staff's recommendation is that council receives this report for additional information and direct staff to bring back a proposed zoning bylaw amendment in June of this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Appreciate that. So just looking to council colleagues for any questions in regards to the report. Amy, my understanding is the conversation is live, to your point, with members of the Birds Rapids community. I know that they had proposed sort of specific zoning considerations that may or may not align with this sort of version of the report, but still obviously make some headway in terms of some of the concerns that have been articulated. So I presume as those conversations continue, there may be an additional shift in thinking or other proposals from the developer. Is that your understanding?
Thank you for the question, Your Worship. So certainly as conversations evolve, there may be changes to the proposed bylaw that staff had drafted as attached to the report this evening. Certainly those would be in discussion with the developer and their agent in regards to appropriateness, depending on what the request is. And as noted, there are certain items that are being raised that are better suited to be addressed through more the detailed design of a plan of subdivision. So this is our opportunity to capture some of those comments and note them for a future plan of application when it does come forward. So certainly, you know, if there are any proposed changes, staff would provide another supplemental report to council with recommendations outlining those. And I just wanted to note it on the zoning side. The rural residential zone, if council recalls, the initial recommendation was a residential first density zoning. So certainly this aligns to try and address some of the concerns that were raised by members of the community in regards to what the permitted uses were under that zoning category. And this removes some of those concerns in relation to being able to build, say, like a semi-detached or a townhome dwelling unit.
Okay, thank you. Colleagues, anything else in regards to the report? Thank you. And I will note that as Ms. Martin acknowledged, there's a number of people here from Birds Rapids in discussions with the CAO. We thought certainly we can welcome any comments at the period of the agenda where we have identified questions from anyone here this evening. Because we're not in decision-making mode, you know, we don't, at this point, we're not debating anything specific other than the fact that Ms. Martin has given us some additional information. So anyone wishing to speak, we can certainly acknowledge them when we get to the portion of the agenda where we open things up from anyone who's watching or listening this evening. But in the meantime, I will recognize Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you to Director Martin. I note in the report, I know you wanted to throw up the bylaw, but I've got the report instead, which is quite detailed and thorough. I note in the report that the comment that it's not an existing neighborhood and that if it were an existing neighborhood, then infilling and intensification would be encouraged. So it's not going to be encouraged, but is it allowable? There was some concern from residents about just the number of possible new residents they'd be dealing with.
Thank you for the question, Deputy Mayor. I think when we're referring to the infilling intensification policy, it's in relation to the requirements of section 8.3.5. In principle, under the land use designation, which is hamlet residential uses are a permitted use. As to whether it's infill and intensification, the deputy director, who is the author of the report, goes into great detail as to why he doesn't classify it as. And in our meeting that we had with residents on March 6th, it was acknowledged that yes, by virtue of more houses being built there, you're going to have more houses and more residences. But based on the definitions within the official plan as to what is residential infill and intensification, and Deputy Director Mosher goes into great detail based on his planning opinion as to how it meets that test based on the definitions and the criteria. It's his opinion that it is not infill and intensification. There's a lot of nuances in the definitions and in planning, but it was his opinion that he derived at, and certainly I do support the opinion as well that it doesn't meet that criteria as applied to with those definitions. And I do appreciate that not everybody shares that view or the same opinion that the planning staff have. But certainly it is something that we're willing to continue to have those discussions with the community. And we are grateful that the developer has agreed, even though the policy doesn't apply, to do that neighborhood character and compatibility study.
So in a nutshell, it doesn't meet the criteria as Deputy Director Mosher interpreted to have infill and intensification encouraged. I mean, that's the language he said. If it was identified as an existing neighborhood, then infill and intensification would be encouraged. I'm not sure how you would encourage it other than saying it's allowable. So it's allowable, it's not prohibited, it's just not encouraged. I'm kind of hung up on the word encourage.
Thank you for the question, Deputy Mayor, and,
Yeah.
and through your worship. I can certainly see that perspective, because when we look at infill intensification in most standards, and this section of the official plan refers back to our urban standards, but you're supposed to replace urban with hamlet. I think the catch that we get stuck in is the fact that typically, redevelopment, infill intensification is taking an existing lot that had a previous use and life on it, and intensifying what was there previously. In this case, this is a vacant property. So it's from that perspective, the infill policies wouldn't apply, but it still doesn't take away the fact that the underlying designation is residential, which would allow for residential uses.
Okay, thank you.
Council colleagues, if anyone prefers to hear from residents of Burt's Rapids at this stage before we move on to the budget, I'm also happy to accommodate that in the agenda, just noting that we only have one other item, but it's the budget and it could take a few minutes. So I look to my deputy mayor. Do you have any thoughts, Deputy Mayor, or does any council member object to moving questions on this matter to this portion of the agenda? Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would be open to hearing some questions, but I would stress that you put time limits, and to be fair, only one resident per property should be speaking instead of having 3 or 2 coming up per property. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no objections, I believe the thought was that Inga Van, I actually don't know how to say your last name, Inga, I apologize. I've known you for a very long time. I think the idea was that Inga might be speaking on behalf of a number of residents in Burt's Rapids, but maybe I'll turn it over to Inga so that we can hear more clearly from her.
Yes, absolutely. Let's see if my video came on okay. Can you see me?
Yes.
I don't see myself, so I guess that's a good thing. Yes, the intent had been
Inga, we'd invite you to turn off your video.
So I'll just start by saying
Inga?
the residents community.
Inga, if you can hear me, I would invite you to
No
turn off
problem,
your
will do.
video. Yeah, because your audio is very unclear, and we need to save your bandwidth for your voice. All right.
Yes, and we'll talk about high-speed internet in Burt's Rapids on a separate conversation.
I know. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'll just jump in. So we met with the residents on Sunday, so I can say with quite confidence that in representing the residents, the community association, and of course the members of our Keep Burt's Rapids Rural Subcommittee, we sincerely thank the planning staff for their support thus far, as we are attempting to learn all about the planning process and the recommendations and all the work and considerations that go into that. We're so pleased to have additional time to work collaboratively with the planners and of course with the developer. And we thank the developer and the agent for their cooperation and patience. Allison was absolutely fantastic and jumped up immediately without hesitation to grant the delay. So much appreciated. So let me just kind of frame out for perspective. I just want to very briefly frame out the 2 key issues that we're having at this time. The first is that planners are making rezoning recommendations in a proactive manner to satisfy future subdivision. They've been trained, they're qualified, they've got experience, and this is simply what they're doing. However, we, the community, are really struggling to understand the appropriate land use, which is being recommended for the subdivision, without actually being able to discuss and understand the subdivision itself. We have many comments and questions about potential compromises or sightline issues, et cetera, but none of that is par and included in the scope of this work at that time. And therefore we're supposed to understand the rezoning for a subdivision that truly isn't defined, let alone its impact on water quality and the archaeological, et cetera. So that's kind of the first piece that we're going to continue to work through. The second piece is that we are saddened and concerned that despite years of collaboration and community engagement, both the planners and the residents are really struggling at this point to interpret and apply the words in section 8.3 of the current official plan in the same way. So we had a vision process. That section was added in the 2018 official plan as a direct outcome of collaborative engagement and a municipality-led visioning exercise, and of course all the other work that had stemmed from that. It's all tied together. So we, as I guess a most impressive need at this point in time, we're really looking forward to discussing the language in section 8.3 and to be able to work with Amy and the other staff members so that we can align both the spirit of our vision and the professional interpretation of it within the new 2026 plan. There just seems to be a disconnect there in terms of its wording. So hopefully that helps just kind of position where we're at this point in time. And again, thank you to council and the planners and the developer as we are trying to find a solution that's going to align the planning policies and hopefully satisfy the vision that was developed for and with our community many years ago.
Thank you, Inga. I will just turn it back to council in case council colleagues have questions in regards to what Inga has said. Not seeing anything. Is there anyone else wishing to speak specifically about the Birds Rapids item before we move on? I think many of you are here in a show of support and also out of interest. So we appreciate you coming this evening. I'm not seeing any other hands. Inga, do you see anyone else wishing to speak?
I do not at this time. Hopefully that means
Okay.
I did a good job summarizing.
Indeed. Okay, well, we appreciate that you've made those comments, and certainly I know it's been wonderful to see you working closely with our planning staff and sorting out for yourselves some of the considerations that make sense for you as residents in Birds Rapids. So I know council looks forward to learning more as all of you learn more, and also appreciate the efforts of the developers representative, Ms. Clark, who's here this evening. I know will continue to engage meaningfully in this process. So thank you very much. And with that,
Yes, thank you. Good night. I'm sure many of us will drop off rather than engage in the budgeting discussion.
You're in good hands. Nothing to worry about when it comes to the budget. So, so I think do we have a revised motion to just receive the report, Ms. Remming? And I will look to Deputy Mayor before I go there. Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Director Martin. Real quick question. Which will come first? Returning to council with a bylaw for us to pass concerning Birds Rapids, or a draft of the OP? I raised the question because of Inga's focus on 8.3 and maybe the language that needs to be reworked or wordsmithed.
I'll through your worship to the deputy mayor. I want to clarify a few items with that question, because the intent would bring the intent would be to bring the official plan first, as we have a target of May. We also anticipate that council may ask us to come back with some revised changes before finally adopting. It's part of our process with those larger documents. So in regards to a review of that policy, certainly that could happen before that time. But I'm putting a caveat on this, is that when we receive an application, we review it against the policies that are in place at the time that the application is deemed complete and received. So in that case, if we did change the policy, say in May, we pass the official plan and we work out some sort of language change in there, it wouldn't apply to the zoning amendment because it's based on when the application was received. So we'd have to apply the existing policy as it is written, the day it is received, to the document, to our review and analysis.
Right, that makes sense. It's unfortunate that that's the way it rolls, but anyways, I'm sure we'll muddle through.
Okay. Any other questions, colleagues? I'm not seeing any. Ms. Remming or Ms. Martin, do you have the revised recommendation for our consideration? Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Go ahead, Ms. Remming.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. So the revised recommendation is that council receive report PD-2026-007 and direct staff to bring a zoning bylaw amendment back for council's consideration in June of 2026.
Great, thank you so much. So I'll look for a mover and a seconder. Councilor Strachian, Councilor Wilson, thank you. Any comments or questions? I should say further comments or questions? Not seeing any, I'll call the vote. All in favor? All right, that carries. Thank you. Okay, so with that, we'll move on to our other item this evening, which is our budget. This is under the amended agenda, colleagues. Of course, you'll recall we've had two fairly fulsome discussions around the staff presented budget. We provided direction last week in regards to some additional adjustments, and I think I'll be turning it over to Ms. Dunlop and then Ms. Wheeler to give us a summary of those proposals so that council colleagues, I know staff is eager to have a budget, as are we. So if there is an appetite this evening to adopt the budget, then I think everyone will be able to get on with the work of the municipality and breathe a little easier. So I am turning it over to you, Ms. Dunlop.
Thank
Okay.
you, Your Worship. So next page. Tonight we present the draft budget, which presents a municipal tax increase of 2.42%. It includes the adjustments with amendments as requested by council. Next page. We have a
Ms.
short.
Ms. Dunlop, I just want to be sure, is everyone seeing the screen clearly?
No, it's not. There's another
No.
screen overlaid on
Yeah.
the presentation.
Exactly. I think we just need to change the view. So it looks like we're not seeing the actual slides, just the backdrop to the slides. There we go. I think that will help, Ms. Remming. Thank you. Just hang on. There we go. I think this might be it. All right.
Thank you, Mayor.
Carry on, Ms. Dunlop.
So we just have a quick short agenda identifying the community investments, draft operating and capital budgets, plus a budget summary, including the current calculated proposed tax rate increase. Next slide. The next two pages identify the community investments, including the addition of $15,000 for the Kemptville Youth Center, a sponsorship program with program to be developed valued at $10,000. And next page. The previously identified community development programs and programs included in the operational departmental budgets. Next page. I will now pass it over to the Director of Finance, Carly Wheeler.
Thank you very much. And good evening, Council. This page here is the 2026 draft operating budget that we have revised. So under the operating, we have an increase of $25,000 for the Kemptville Youth Center and that sponsorship. On the revenue side, we have an increase of $150,000 in the drawdown of reserves, and that is to reduce the tax rate from 3.15% to 2.42%. Next slide. For our capital budget expenditures, we have had the additions from the second draft as directed. We have the streetlight retrofit, southern area 59 for 59,000. We have the skate park paving and pump track design, also added at 125,000. The former Oxfield Mills exterior rehab for 350,000. We have the arena hallway seating at 20,000. However, I believe the arena hallway seating, just from discussions of our previous meeting, may have been replaced with the rural CIP. So if that is the case, then the 20,000, the financing does not change. We would simply bring a budget amendment to a future council date just to make that change. So my apologies on that one. Audio improvements at Arena 2 for 100,000. The shade structure for the Oxford Station at 50,000. And finally, a marketing strategy at 50,000. So the total cost added to the capital expenditures is 754,000, bringing us to a total of 40,918,987. Next slide. So on the financing side, this just shows the capital being financed through the tax revenue reserves, grants, etc. And the change here is the increase to the drawdown of reserves for 754,000.
Ms. Levi, can I just ask a quick question?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I know that in last week's discussion, we asked a couple of questions in regards to the arena audio upgrades being financed through the North Grenville Municipal Center Reserve Fund. So we wanted to better understand there's a very healthy reserve for the North Grenville Municipal Building. It's financing a lot of other renovations within the building. So I wanted to better understand whether or not the audio upgrades could also be taken from that reserve. My other question was in regards to whether or not enhancements at Riverside Park can avail of some development charges. I know in the previous upgrades to Riverside Park, we have in fact been able to avail of development charges to a fairly significant degree. So on those two items, one of which is 100K and one of which is 125, I was just curious about the source of the reserves.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. So for the audio improvements, so that was in discussions with Director Torch. So as mentioned, she is on holiday, so we did not get a chance to look into the eligibility of that project. However, the way that it's currently budgeted is through the reserve. So ideally we would use that reserve if it does qualify. If it does not, then it would be financed through the general. And the same goes for the other project for development charges. So we are doing our DC backgrounder. So with that study, we also are looking to finance not just this project, but in 2026, we have a number of projects, and just on the actual expense side of things, when we have our actual financing, then we will definitely draw on the development charges that qualify.
Thank you. Just one other follow-up before you carry on, unless I see other council hands. I don't see everyone on the screen right now, so apologies if I'm missing someone. When it comes to marketing, the marketing strategy, I had a similar question around the utilization of development charges, which I know in the past, and Ms. Dunlop, you might recall, we've availed of development charges to ensure, for example, stormwater master planning. I know that for growth-related projects, some of that infrastructure, the studies to support the investments in new infrastructure can in part be offset by development charges. And I wondered about that in regards to the marketing study as well. don't know if you would have a comment on that at this time.
The marketing strategy would be pulled from reserves. We'd pull it from development charges if it was identified in the previous backgrounder study, which I don't believe it was, but similar to Director Wheeler's comment, we can look, since we are currently putting together the DC backgrounder, we can see about including it in the next version.
Okay, thanks. So Ms. Wheeler, you can carry on. Thank you.
Okay. Next slide, please. And I think I was the one after this slide. Thank you. So the revised draft budget summary. So this shows where it's highlighted under administration, the operating revenues. So this is the increase of the drawdown from reserves. So this figure has changed to the 1.6 million, bringing our taxation levy to 21,074,934. Next slide, please. So with the residential tax assessment, with the tax rate increase of 2.42%, the slide shows the yearly increase at $48.94, and monthly that would be $4.08. Next slide. Okay. So thank you. I'll open up to council for any questions that I may answer.
Okay. So colleagues, I'll recognize Deputy Mayor. I have one other consideration for the budget this evening that I'd like to share with you shortly, but I will go to Deputy Mayor first.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Director Wheeler. First of all, I'd like to sincerely thank you for walking me through an explanation of the reserves last week. It was very educational and I think beneficial to see some of the projects that were previously below the line or to be brought forward. And you know, for the general public, there's no sort of homogeneous reserve out there, even though they might see a figure of $36 million. But having your help in breaking it down in terms of what was deferred revenue, where the DCs are parked, and reserves versus reserve funds, which are segregated, and some of them are discretionary, some of them are obligatory. It helped me formulate or come to the conclusion that we were able to make those drawdowns from reserves. So I'm very comfortable with the additional drawdowns from reserves, and I'm wondering whether we couldn't go a little bit further and try and get that tax rate down. That's my comment, but again, thanks to you, Director and Deputy Director Dancy, for your work in getting that material to us last week. Thank you.
Thank you. It was our pleasure.
Certainly, this evening's presentation being so much shorter than last week's, it doesn't paint that full picture, as Deputy Mayor is saying, of the reserve discussion we had last week, which clearly showed the municipality is in a very strong fiscal position, in part due to growth, in part due to, I think, fiscally sustainable approaches over the last few years, if not decades. I think we all learned a lot during last week's conversation. And certainly to follow on Deputy Mayor, I have been giving a lot of consideration to our tax rate increase. And I would like to appeal to my council colleagues this evening for a consideration of a further lowering of the tax rate increase to 1.9. Council colleagues might remember that certainly in the early years of this council's mandate, we endeavored to keep our tax rate increases below 2, recognizing that growth does certainly generate additional revenue. It also obviously means we may be making more investments in infrastructure than perhaps other communities, but there's clear benefit to that growth, and that was evident in the reserve explanation that was provided last week. We'll also note that the 2024 audited statements now also show a $3 million, in excess of $3 million surplus. We know some of that will be eaten by carryovers from projects not completed, but certainly nowhere close to 3 million. So I feel very comfortable in certainly looking to my council colleagues for their potential support of a further reduction to the tax rate increase so that we can get to 1.9. Welcome any discussion, colleagues. Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Director Wheeler. It was my understanding that a 1% increase in the tax rate is equivalent to about 180,000. I heard that number, but I don't know if that's accurate or not.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Deputy Mayor Barkley. It's a 1% increase in the tax levy is approximately 200,000.
200,000. Okay.
Correct. So with a 1.93% tax increase, then our current budget would need to be reduced. The tax levy would need to be reduced by approximately 100,000.
100,000. Okay. Again, from your helpful information last week, I think it's possible for us to further draw from reserves the amount of 100,000. And if the mayor's in agreement and the rest of council's in agreement, I think that's a motion I could put forward. Thank you.
So I'm understanding that you'll move that, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Wilson has her hand up. Are you seconding, Councillor Wilson? Okay, so we will need a seconder to get the motion on the table. Is there a seconder for the motion? Okay, Councillor Wilson.
Yes, I will forward that, but I do, my hand was up because I have questions.
Understood. All right,
Okay,
you can ask
yes.
the question.
Yeah, I'll second the motion, yeah.
Okay, so feel free to ask your questions. Councillor.
Okay, and I might be getting into the weeds. I'm seconding the motion because I'm in full agreement here. But I do have a couple of questions about the additions from the second draft of the capital budget expenditures on page 7. I see where arena hallway seating is included in this. I would like to disagree that we need arena hallway seating at this point. Mainly because I think we have enough hockey and dressing rooms in the arena that people can put their skates on in those dressing rooms. I think that when we endeavor to go through a retrofit or whatever we're going to do with redoing the arena corridor with offices and whatever to make room for Parks and Rec, then that would be the time that we could incorporate some seating in hallways or wherever for people to put skates on or whatever.
Councillor Wilson, can I just interrupt you just for 1
Yeah.
second? Only because you may not have heard that I think the proposal for, if I understood it correctly, is the arena seating allocation would actually be converted to funding for the rural CIP. So I believe
I have not heard that information, so this is why I'm asking the question. And I am
Ms. Wheeler, just to be clear, did refer to it earlier. You may just not have caught it.
Yeah. Okay, so rural
regrettably,
CIP, I'm all for that.
Great.
My next question, if you can indulge me for a moment, please. The shade structure in Oxford Station, that has been allocated a $50,000. I'm trying to go through my notes. I can't find in my notes how much Director Torch had said that a structure similar to what Crozier Park has, how much it would cost. So that is escaping me right now, but I definitely don't want to see that taken off the table. So I may be way off base here and probably wasn't listening. I might have had my head in the clouds, but here we are. So thank you for indulging me.
Good. So we'll have Ms. Dunlop respond. Ms. Dunlop?
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Wilson is correct. Director Torch did indicate that 50,000 probably would not get the type of structure that you're referring to. She was going to look into it. Since it is a reserve funded product, we would bring back a report at that time. It's she estimated 100 to 150,000 may be the figure, but she was going to dig in a little deeper and come back to you.
And to that end, I believe that it might take a couple of years of planning to ensure that we get the right structure, right, that's suitable for that park. So I think what this funding allocation represents is a first step in that direction, just like we're doing for other things. So thank you, Ms. Dunlop. And I think really the point of this exercise is to give staff the capacity to pursue high priority capital items. So I expect that Ms. Torch will certainly be back to council before too long with some information about how plans can be put into place, not necessarily actioned this year, but certainly put into place for the coming years. Is there anything else, council colleagues? I believe in terms of the direction around the rural CIP, Ms. Remming, I think we can provide that direction this evening, and I'll acknowledge Councillor Strachan, so it doesn't have to come back at a different meeting as part of any amendments we're making. And I should note, we do have a motion on the table as it pertains to the reduction of the tax rate increase to 1.9. Thank you, Ms. Remming, I can see you nodding. So I'll entertain some other questions in the context of any other amendments to the budget, and then we can return to the motion on the table. So, but if there is formal direction required in terms of the rural CIP, I think we could also accommodate that this evening. Councillor Strachan, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think the intent was not to create another need to come back with a new budget because of the rural CIP. So I think my understanding, it was an oversight to have the arena seating in there and not to have the rural CIP. I want to say thank you, Director Wheeler, and thank you to your deputy as well. This is great to have the budget. It's been clear. I think it's been easily digestible for folks as well to understand exactly what the different parts mean, where the money's going. That hasn't always been the case previously. So thank you very much for that. With respect to the rural CIP, given that there is no impact on the current proposed tax rate, notwithstanding the motion on the table, I would like to see that going forward, simply because it is been added to the Ag and Rural Affairs as part of their enhanced work plan to complete prior to the upcoming election. And the rural CIP is an item that's been languishing. So there's an effort to get it up and running, and it would be good to be able to put that forward and have the funds out in the community for approved projects. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Peck, for indulging me again. Yes, thank you to Director Wheeler and your Deputy Director, Mr. Dancy. I've been sitting at this table for 4 years. I've had 5 budgets, and this is the first one that I've been able to comprehend and to be able to understand. I'm not a money person. I am a business person, but I thank you, because I could understand it. It was budget for dummies as far as I'm concerned, for me. Thank you.
I think we certainly have benefited from 2 very comprehensive budget overviews. For anyone watching this evening, those previous discussions were quite fulsome. So you're not getting the benefit of the complete picture that was presented by Ms. Wheeler and her team on 2 different occasions, but certainly it has been very fruitful to have such depth in terms of the budget information. I'm going to recognize Ms. Dunlop. Your hand is up. Before reminding colleagues, we have a motion on the table, and we'll go from there. Ms. Dunlop.
Thank you, Your Worship. I am asking if an amended motion would be considered on the table with just changing of item 2 on the bylaw, and if you would like me to read it, or whatever the timing would be, you can let me know.
Well, there is a motion to amend the budget. Are you suggesting a further amendment? I'm unclear.
With Councillor Strachan's,
Oh, rural CIP.
yes, to add the
Okay.
rural CIP
Sure.
into the bylaw budget that's being proposed.
Indeed. I certainly, I think, Deputy Mayor, you moved the original motion. If you're favorable, we could also add the reference to the rural CIP so that, to Councillor Strachan's point, it's captured now and can be actioned fairly quickly, if you're amenable to that.
Yeah, that's a friendly amendment as far as I'm concerned. I would note that before we pass the bylaw with some blanks in there, that item 3 in the actual resolution or the bylaw 3526, item 3, it should be stated that council approves the reserve drawdown of an additional, and I would have it at 240,000 rather than 150, to reflect an estimated residential municipal tax rate increase of 1.9%.
Ms. Dunlop, Ms. Wheeler, does that make sense to you?
I would ask, through you, Your Worship, I would ask Director Wheeler to confirm the math.
Ms. Wheeler?
Being,
Or I'll go back to Deputy Mayor first. Go ahead,
yes,
Deputy.
yeah, no, it was just a note that last year we passed the budget on March 19th, and so we're a week ahead. So we're doing better this year than last year, if it does indeed pass. Thank you.
So, and certainly I think you're noting there are blanks in the current bylaw, so we do have to fill in those blanks to provide clear direction. So Ms. Wheeler, can you clarify? I think, again, we have a motion now to effectively amend the current budget with the considerations of a 1.9 tax rate increase and the rural CIP. Ms. Remming, this is a motion to amend. It's not to adopt the budget. So I'm assuming I'll call the question on the amendments and then we'll get a mover and seconder for the budget bylaw as it's presented. Is that your understanding?
So my understanding is correct, is what you're saying is that
Right.
we are looking at a secondary motion that would amend the initial motion on the table, and then we would close out the primary motion. That is correct.
Okay. So we have the amendment on the table in regards to the 1.9 tax rate increase, which is a modification from what's in the proposal, and the clarity around the allocation for rural CIP. Deputy Mayor has said the addition of the rural CIP is a friendly amendment. Councillor Wilson, you would also a seconder be favorable to the inclusion of the rural CIP. So let's call the question on that. All in favor, please. All right, so that carries. So Ms. Remming, as you've stated, we're now looking at the adoption of bylaw 3526, being a bylaw to set the 2026 municipal budgets, and that council authorizes the use of reserves and an amount to be finalized to achieve the residential municipal tax increase approved by council as reflected in bylaw 3526. So I'll just get a mover and a seconder, and then we'll look to Ms. Wheeler to clarify those two blanks. Yes, Ms. Remming.
My apologies, Madam Mayor. We did have that moved by Deputy Mayor Barkley and seconded by Councillor Wilson. So it would just be final discussion on the motion and then all in favor on that primary amendment, on that primary motion.
I think I'm a little bit confused because I thought the only motion on the table was in regards to the amendment specific to the tax rate increase in rural CIP.
My apologies. So there were two motions that it
Yep.
sounded like were open on the table. There was a primary one that was moved and seconded prior to Councillor Wilson asking some questions
Right.
about the arena hallway seating. So I may have misunderstood, but I had understood that it was the motion that was on the agenda. So we're looking, and I mean, okay, thank you.
I think it's either approach will get us to the same end. So if you can indulge me on this one, I think we've considered an amendment now that now brings us to the consideration of what you're calling the primary budget bylaw. So let's go there now if that's okay with you. So I'll look for a mover and a seconder for the adoption of the budget bylaw, Deputy Mayor, and who else? Councillor Strachan, thank you very much. But I do think we need Ms. Wheeler to fill in the detail in regards to the blanks in the bylaw as it exists right now.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the way that the budget bylaw is presented as of now is with a 2.42% tax rate increase. Therefore, if we have the drawdown of reserves of 90,000, as Deputy Mayor suggested with the 240,000, because 150,000 had already been captured to bring it to the 2.42. So a 90,000 draw from reserves would bring the tax rate to 1.98%, and 100,000 drawdown from reserves would bring the tax rate to a 1.93%.
So that total number is it just the 90 that we're including tonight?
So with 100,000 drawdown, we would reduce the tax levy to 20,974,934.
Which is in alignment with that 1.9%.
1.93, yep.
1.93.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Council colleagues, is that well understood? Okay. Ms. Remming, I think you have the information for those blanks. Okay. Great. Okay. So we have a mover and a seconder. Are there any other questions in regards to this particular budget? Okay. Ms. Dunlop, any final comments from you? Okay. I will call the question. All in favor? All right. That carries. So thank you very much to our staff, to my council colleagues, to other partners, residents, community organizations, all of whom came out to have their say and make their case. And I really feel very confident that this budget strikes the right balance and enables residents to enjoy an already high quality of life, but hopefully even a little bit higher, while also being incredibly fiscally prudent. So Ms. Wheeler, we appreciate your leadership, and of course, Ms. Dunlop, thank you for your time and energy on this. And Mr. Dancy, who's not here this evening, I know has also worked very hard alongside the senior leadership team. So that is done, colleagues. So with that, we are at the item of correspondence, and I see that there are no correspondence items posted this evening. I know it's a very busy correspondence schedule from time to time, so we look forward to getting apprised of some of those additional correspondence pieces in the coming weeks. And I'll go to motions and notice of motions. Are there any notice of motions for consideration at a future council meeting, colleagues? Not seeing any. We'll move on. Petitions and written communications, none are featured here for the present time. In terms of questions from the media and public, I do not believe we have any members of the public with us this evening. Is that right, Ms. Remming?
There are no longer any members of the public online.
Okay, so then we'll go to confirmation bylaw, colleagues, and that is that the confirmation bylaw is attached to this agenda, be read for a second, third time and passed in open council. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that, please? Councillor Wilson and Councillor Strachan, thank you. And I will call the vote. All in favor? That carries. And adjournment. Adjournment at 7:39 p.m. this evening. So not a long council meeting, but certainly an impactful one. So I'll look for an adjournment, colleagues who would like to move us to adjournment. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Wilson, thank you. And I will call the question. All in favor? Okay, our meeting is adjourned, and thank you everyone for your work, and please stay safe. We don't know what the